The soda is sweating. It's incredibly warm in here. So I've basically just been confined to the chair sitting in front of the fan. And I've been messing around with a couple of things here. So recently I've been really into modding game systems, getting them to play game backups, to get rid of disks and carts and everything, to streamline it and preserve them. And I've gone through the Wii and the GameCube and the PS2, and now I was looking at my handhelds, because I know the Xbox 360 is a bitch. I have a soft modded Xbox which needs a hard drive, but I'll probably get to it, but I just don't like how committed it is on a per system basis. But these handhelds, I had plenty of DS's. I had 3 of them. So it's like, let's see what I can do. My 3 DS systems, put these aside because they aren't relevant to what I'm talking about as of a week ago. So I pulled these out. This is my original DS, or rather my second DS. I lost my first one. I bought this about 12 or 13 years ago, probably more like 13. And it still works. Incredibly. It is scuffed up, it is pretty beat up. Definitely the hinge is cracked and it just falls right back. So the hinge is busted completely. It hasn't come completely apart, but it's broken. So you can play games on it, it's just a pain in the ass. And the screens are not ideal. But they display everything just fine. They aren't dying. But as a result of that hinge issue, about 7 years ago I purchased this one, which was white, DS Lite. And the hinge on it is actually also broken, but not as bad. It's still very good. The structural integrity of this hinge is perfect, but it is cracked. And it's discoloring slowly, obviously, as these tend to do. And this worked fine for quite some time. I don't know when exactly this started, but the corners of the screen are going away. They're just totally gone. They're white now. It depends on the temperature of the device, I think, because I have seen it at varying levels of intrusion, but the edges of the screen are going, and I don't like that. It's very annoying. In some games it's outright like you cannot see certain information or text or items in your menu or whatever it may be. So that's a big problem. I was not pleased to find that out. So those are my DS Lites, and they're both compromised. But I also had this guy. I picked this up a little over 5 years ago from Japan. Original DS system. The plastic has lost a lot of color and it's cracked and chipped. It, however, did work fine. The sticker on the back is white. It didn't come with a stylus or a strap or anything, but even though it has seen better days condition-wise, it had always worked fine. Until last week when I fired it up, and I lost my bottom screen. So now it's useless. However, it is still possible to use this as a glorified Game Boy Advance. With the top screen, you'd never know if there was anything wrong with it. But that really disappointed me. This had really become my main DS. I love the design of this. I know some people really don't. I like the way it feels better than a DS Lite. Everything about it is very comfortable for me. I like the buttons, the D-pad. The triggers are definitely better. I love the design of it. It stands out way more than the other ones. The Game Boy Advance cart is flush. The speakers are even better than a DS Lite. The screens are definitely worse, but I like this thing a lot. But obviously there, it needs a screen replacement. However, instead of opting for that, I was able to acquire some good stuff. 2 more systems for very, very cheap. This obviously is just like what I had, except for this is an American system. It does have the strap and the stylus. The strap alone goes for like, I don't know, $30, and this was $40. So, works perfectly, and is in much better condition, as you can tell. It's not cracked anywhere, nothing. So now I have this for playing my game carts, and I will talk about this a little bit as I get into the options. But I wanted to have this because it's one of my favorite systems. It's my favorite system aesthetically, definitely. So I've acquired that, and I will work on it a little bit, definitely. But this is the bread and butter. This is the testing ground. This is the system that I was interested in getting. I've had two DSi's in the past, but I sold both of them. I had a dark blue and a light blue. This is a white one because I wanted to try to match my DS Lite system. And definitely, I say I did a pretty good job of that, because they are fairly similar systems. I prefer the DS Lite, but a modded DSi is a pretty good system. Completely modded. And you can see the screen is even better. Which is great. And I'll even show the original DS. The DS Lite is obviously intensely brighter. It's almost as if that one isn't even on. But I'll show you the functions of an SD card mod. Very simple, very cheap and effective with a 32GB SD card. So here I have it on the DS Classic menu because it has your brightness adjustments right there, as well as your last played game and your settings. So that's usually what I need. So I can fire up Pic-To-Chat or DS Play, and that's all good. And then you can use this as a method to get back to the regular DSi menu as well. You can boot it in different ways. We'll go back to the menu. I know it looks like piss yellow, but what can I do? And here's where you can load your ROMs. And I have a lot of games. Here, I'll show this one because it's a good demonstration. This is Dragon Quest IV, Chapters of the Chosen. Great game for demonstrating the dual screen and whether your screens are in sync or not, or if they need calibrated. I've just started a new game because you cannot give you a preview of the magnificent graphics. But unless you do a game rip, you can't copy your save games from this to this without an R4 card. So, show here. Starting a new game. And that's what this is. This is an SD card running in the side slot. I have nothing in my top slot. As we come out, this is a great way to show this. Perfectly in sync. You can rotate the camera either way and see that your screens are in sync. So that's a demonstration of that. That's a good way to test that, because sometimes if you have a replacement screen, they won't stay in sync, and there will be input lag between the two screens. So Dragon Quest IV Chapters of the Chosen, install that game even if you don't want to play it. It's a good way to test that out, for sure, because you will see a very noticeable jitter. Plenty of other games here. You have to go back and forth with the triggers between the different pages. You can set this menu up to do different things. You can have a scrolling text menu at the top. But this is the most similar to the regular DSi menu, so that's what I use. Did you know there was Ys Book 1 and 2 on the DS? Mario Kart DS is a favorite of mine. And I'll even show you here. Two systems side by side. It's no problem whatsoever to play multiplayer with a non-modded system. And you can do it vice versa. There's my game. It is possible to configure it so you can return without restarting your system, but there's many things you can configure here. You can press select. You get a different menu here with your settings, your regular DSi menu. Metal Slug 7. Let's see here. It's a little hard to do this. Metroid Prime Hunters. I actually even got the original DS browser on here. But I mean, there's just many games. Any DS game you want to play. There it is. Nintendo DS browser, Opera. Nintendogs, Pokemon, all of them. Don't need to worry about bootleg carts. You got all of them here. Official versions. Civilization, Revolution, Skate, Sonic, games, everything. All of the games you could want. And that's where it ends for me. Oh no, it doesn't. I suppose there are a couple more. I thought I had a Z game on here, but I suppose not. And battery replacements, I see mine just went down 1. Battery replacements are real easy, just unscrew it, a new battery, no problem. But what's also cool is you can play GBA games and original Game Boy games. Now compatibility isn't perfect because it's a hypervisor kind of emulator. So it doesn't work perfectly here. I'll show you ATV Quad Power Racing. And just like on a regular DS, see, it will load up the ROM, and there you go, just like on a regular DS. You can change what screen you want it on and everything. But now, obviously that doesn't work. So the compatibility is not 100% there. There is a list online of compatible games that work. Many of the ones that I care about do work, luckily. But some don't, so just keep that in mind. It's not perfect, but it is a way. Here I'll fire up an original Game Boy title. As you can see, it's a small part of the screen there. Should be able to get some settings to come up. And I can change that scaling aspect. And there you go, you got the full thing. More like putting a GBA game in. I'm not aware. Oh, well, you can see compatibility definitely isn't perfect. I played a couple of Game Boy Color games on here and it worked just fine. So some games work and some games don't on the Game Boy. It's definitely more for DS titles. Although you can put a couple of emulators on here that seem to work solidly. More solidly than Game Boy. A 3DS is a better option for emulators because you can inject the Virtual Console, or there are just Virtual Console games in general. The 3DS is a great handheld Nintendo system. Let's see here. I want to show you a game that actually works, though. I know this video is dragging on. Super Mario Bros. Deluxe for the Game Boy Color. Again, it doesn't fill the screen. I'm not going to change it, but you can do it, obviously. Works just fine. No slowdowns, no sound glitches, no anything. So either your game works or it doesn't. But I'll show you an emulator on it real quick. There are plenty of other things you can install, like DSiWare games or homebrew titles. I was able to put, just as a test, there's a very old, about 10 years or older, homebrew version of Minecraft, or a Minecraft-esque game on the DS, and I have it, and it works just fine. Here, show NES games. There's Shadow of the Ninja. I just put a couple on for testing purposes, but they work just fine. Look beautiful on the screen. They aren't darkened or anything. The sound is good. I'm sure my volume is maximum. You can change the control scheme for a turbo button or whatever. Like there's my turbo. So it works just fine. It doesn't lag when the guy is flickering like that. It's not perfect. It's a little bit like running them on a PSP or whatever. But it's definitely playable for the majority of games. Maybe some of the really high-end games where there's a bunch going on. It lags, but definitely something cool to have as a portable system. So that's a great game, by the way. I'm up to the very final stage. I can't beat the last stage of this game, but very cool. So that's one option, and I'll show you real quick. Again, with only one hand. My SD card is just a SanDisk 32 gig card. Nothing special about it. It has to be 32 gigs or smaller though for a DSi. I think a 3DS you can put up to like 128 or 256 without problems, but this is a nice solution. Very nice solution. Another option that exists, and one that's very popular as well, is an R4 card, which is, I believe, a micro SD card adapter that fits in your slot that has custom firmware on it. So you don't have to actually mod your system. This took me about 20 minutes to do as well, without using a lazy DSi. If your camera doesn't work, it's a little harder, but R4 cards have problems like being time bombed. The developers have put a little time bomb in there so that after a year or so your card will stop working intentionally, so you have to buy a new one. Some cards have it, some cards don't. Some cards you can disable it by doing hardware mods or software mods, but that is something you have to watch out for. Some R4 cards are just better made than others. They are about $30 at minimum. A good one's going to cost you a little bit more, and there are certain limitations to it as well. There are certain advantages to it. You can use an R4 card in addition to the SD card. Same with on a 3DS. You can use any combination that you please. But for a DS Lite, that's the option you're going to want to look into. Or for a regular DS. And if I ever get one, I will do a video on it. But I just wanted to show this as the easiest option, in my opinion, for playing DS games on a modded system. Easier than a 3DS and easier than an R4 card. At least in my opinion. Because you can just buy any $10 SD card and be off to the races with this system. So, those are my latest exploits with the DS. However, there's a little bonus feature for this video, which is the PSP. And I have successfully finished this one as well. Very easy. Mod this guy in about 10 minutes. Again, my system is modded. And what's cool about it is you can even play PS1 games that are not PS1 classics that weren't released on the PlayStation Store. So I've got like Twisted Metal 4 here. There's the Japanese version of Dead or Alive, Dark Forces. These are all PS1 games. Future Cop, great game. Spec Ops. You can tell which ones are real and which ones are converted files. Like this is a converted file. Road Rash. This is a real release, because you can see it was playable on PS3 as well. Final Doom, like, yeah, you can just kind of tell. Diablo, all sorts of stuff. Gran Turismo. This one's a little laggy, but most of the games work perfectly fine for PS1 games. You can also get, I'll just fire one of them. You can get a lot of emulators for this thing, but I haven't bothered with them. Yep. No problem. You can adjust settings, obviously. You can do all the settings are available in the custom games as well, the ones that weren't released officially. So you can change your control scheme to a custom config, or you can change the aspect of the screen, the sound options, and everything. But in addition to that, obviously, I've got a bunch of original PSP games, which are the ones that are the most interesting. Here's the custom firmware. More PS1 stuff, more PSP stuff. And it all works perfectly fine, no problems whatsoever with it. So I'll start up something here. Show you. Elite Squadron. That's a fun game, as I said. The Elite Squad. I haven't played this game in a long time. It's just clunky by comparison. It just shows you what you can do. I'll show you the little adapter that I have for this purpose. It works just fine. And this is especially good because the UMD is a pain in the ass as far as I'm concerned. So, no problem. This works on all PSP models. This works on a PS Vita as well. You get to load up the PSP menu and play all the PSP and PS1 games as well on a Vita, which is really cool. I don't have my PS Vita anymore, but it is possible. So, and it is region free, so pretty cool. Again, just quit out of it here. One thing I gotta note though, if you're using a Mac, I wouldn't use a Mac to do this, or at least have a Windows machine available, because what the Mac does is it creates a little hidden file for every single game that you add. So when you load it up in this list, there's going to be for every game you have, there's also going to be corrupted files. So you'll have to scroll through a bunch of corrupted files. If you go in on a Windows computer or show hidden files on your Mac, you can delete those corrupted files. But if you're on a Mac, it'll just recreate them right away for the folder. So try to do it on a Windows machine, but you can get away with it on a Mac if you don't mind the corrupted files showing up. But yeah, that's my PSP, also modded for games. But you definitely want to have a little bit more space. And what I have is an adapter. Luckily this came with my system, I didn't have to even buy this. It's a little micro SD to memory stick Pro Duo adapter. And here's this little Samsung 64 gig card that fits in the adapter. Again, I'm sorry this vid's so low res, I would do it otherwise, but I'm having a really bad time with my connection right now to the internet. So I want to try to keep my file size small so I'm not sitting here for 3 hours uploading a vid. But yeah, so there you go. Those are my latest exploits with my handheld game systems running ROMs. So I'm done with these. I consider personally, I have plenty of ways to play old Game Boy games. I have plenty of ways to play Game Gear games. I don't have any way to play Turbo Express. I don't know if there really is an emulator for the Turbo Express or not. But I might pick up a PS Vita again at some point if I find one for a really good price. And I'm definitely looking at getting a 3DS down the road, because they're easy to mod too, and then you can have everything this has plus all the 3DS stuff and virtual console games. So that's definitely a good one. I'm going to look into PS3 jailbreaking and stuff like that, because that could be an appealing option. Modding a 360 is just incredibly hard if you don't know how to solder, or if your solder skills aren't great and it's expensive, or either way. And then the original Xbox, of course, you got to do the hard drive swap with old IDE drives or adapters and this and that, and it's just kind of a bitch. I'll probably get to that one eventually, but just wanted to show you guys, keep you up to date with my little adventures here. And I mean, these aren't tutorials, but it just kind of, if it makes people aware of what's possible, then that's a good thing. So hope this was of some use or entertaining. So catch you guys later.